are there women who marry men knowing full well that they're going to divorce them and take half their money?
That's why they're marrying them. That's entirely why they're marrying them. And how you know, these are the signs that she's marrying you for money. Usually.
All right, Sadia Khan. You are a psychologist. You specialize in what?
Psychotherapy and therapy for relationships. Trauma and relationships.
Which we all...
Yeah, which we all can't escape, unfortunately.
Yeah, covers everyone's life. So I had this conversation recently with someone. It seems promiscuity has advanced ever since the sexual revolution. First there was sex before marriage, and then people were having sex purely for enjoyment, and then having one-night stands, and now OnlyFans. And the divorce rate is rising, which probably reflects that. Are we building a better society, or are we just disintegrating?
I think if we ever are going to answer that question, the proof is in the stats. In cultures where promiscuity is at its highest, we can't hide the fact that divorce rates are then at the highest, mental health concerns are at the highest, STDs are at the highest, and the measure of any success of any kind of trend is the impact it has on children. Whatever trend a society is facing, whether it's promiscuity, whether it's cohabitation, whether it's sex work, if we just measure the impact it has on the most vulnerable people in that society, that will indicate whether it's good or bad for us. And if we look at the rise of promiscuity, the number one kind of sufferers of this tend to be the children of such behaviors. And therefore, I would find it difficult to see how sexual freedom can really be healthy if the people suffering are children, because they are then left with broken homes, not knowing who their father is, who their mother is. They're left with a plethora of mental health concerns. So any kind of trend that has a negative impact on children cannot be a positive impact on society.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah.
Is it worldwide, do you think, or is it just?
It is worldwide, and I would blame a lot of that due to the globalization of social media.
Yeah.
I think that you can be in the middle of Afghanistan, in the middle of Ukraine, or in the middle of LA, but your children are consuming the same content. And the sexualization of TV shows is really interesting. What I found really interesting is over the years, and I can only account for my own kind of experiences, I would see people like Britney Spears or Miley Cyrus. They come very cookie cutter, very clean, so they appeal to a very young audience, and then overnight they become hyper promiscuous and hyper sexualized. So the young audience is now kind of catapulted into the sexual revolution with the idols that they were admiring. They have no choice but to catch up to their sexuality, and as a result, it's like we're kind of propelling children into sexualization, which I just don't understand the benefits of.
It's becoming cool to the kids.
Cool. Yeah, it's hyper cool for them.
Yeah. So technology, it's made our lives easier in a lot of ways, but it seems romantic relationships have become much more difficult than ever before. There's pornography for men, which eliminates the man's need to ever develop courage, which takes a lot of courage to approach a beautiful woman. Sex toys for women, millions of possible partners on social media, and then one day probably AI sex dolls for people. It seems like all of these things are just destroying our happiness, because I don't think anyone's happy watching porn all the time. I don't know if these women that are entertaining hundreds and thousands of men on social media are really getting anything, maybe just money, but we're all lonely and frustrated, I think.
Absolutely.
Are men struggling more, or are women struggling more?
I would say men are struggling a lot more. And the reason I say men are struggling more with the advent of technology is what pornography does and what social media has done is placed beauty on a pedestal. So what happens is men are now seeking the most attractive woman to be with. That becomes their number one criteria. But I always say the number one determinant of how healthy your relationship will be is how attracted a woman is to you. As a man, if you bypass this very fundamental component, you will suffer in the forms of very abusive relationships. When you're a man who is dating a woman who's super attracted to you, regardless of how you feel about her, she's attracted to you, she treats you with respect, she'll be available, she'll be accessible, she'll be very easy to kind of get her to comply, she'll be all of those things that men are looking for, she'll be more agreeable, all of those things. But what pornography does is allow men to be hyper attached and attracted, and social media does this as well, to women who have no idea who they even are and have zero attraction to them. So they go into the real world in the pursuit of women, and they bypass whether she's attracted to them. They just want the most attractive woman in the world. And the treatment you get from women who are not attracted to you is completely different. They treat you as if you are a nuisance. They don't show you any desire. They don't show you any submission. And most of all, they don't show you any respect. So what's happening now is that we're cultivating households and relationships where men are idolizing women who have no respect for them in return because they're placing attractiveness on a pedestal. And this can only lead to unhealthy outcomes, because women are the ones that file for divorce. And if you are selecting women who are not deeply attracted to you and not deeply invested in you, you're just delaying the divorce. It's going to happen, but you're just delaying it and making sure, and she's just making sure she can just, take the most out of you as she leaves. So I think the destruction of society is going to be always in the hands of men, and I think they're suffering more from the advent of social media.
Yeah, it seems like pornography has taken away the one thing that makes a man, which is having courage.
Yeah.
He never develops that,
Never.
the need for it, because he can just access any woman he wants online, and and the courage never comes into the equation.
And it's a recipe for rape. One of the things that I think that is so bizarre about pornography that nobody really kind of addresses is, here's the thing, the mindset of a rapist is, I want to have sex with a woman who doesn't want to have sex with me. It's that simple. That's the mindset of a rapist. We have taught everybody that rape involves holding a woman down, she's punching, crying, kicking, and only then is it rape. But the fundamental core ingredient is wanting to have a sex with a woman who doesn't want to have sex with you. What pornography does is allow you to find a loophole to that desire. Having sex essentially with women who don't want to have sex with you, who don't know you, don't see you, don't do anything, don't want you. So it gives you that loophole, and you don't even look at whether mutual attraction or affection is there. Now that is the fundamental ingredient of rape, and what pornography also does is exaggerate the sexual violence. It uses sexual violence with a woman that doesn't even know you're there, and you're watching it and witnessing it. There is no way that can't be a recipe for sexual abuse in the real world. So I just think it just devoids men of what their true instinct is, which is to find a woman who desires them, is now replaced with just finding a woman who will let him masturbate over her.
Hi guys. Now, one of the questions I get asked the most since I've been online is, what books do I recommend? Is there any books that I can read to help me understand like some of the things you talk about? What self-help books did you read to get here? Now, a fun fact about me is I suffer from very extreme ADHD. I am very much incapable of reading an entire book. I haven't read a book cover to cover since maybe I was 15 years old, unless it's for work, unless it's an academic reason that I need to read, I won't read. And but I really realized I'm missing out, right? Because there's so many amazing self-help books out there. There's so many great books for relationships. There's just so much information out there that you can't really capture without reading a book. And so I started looking online, and I found this incredible website called Shortform. And what Shortform does is takes all of your best-selling books from any genre, whether it is from like self-help, autobiographies, all types of topics, and it simply condenses it for you. So you can read an entire book or understand the entire gist of the book within 10 minutes or so. And I literally go on there, I download a few of the best books on there, and I read them while I'm on the plane, or I'll know when to save them, and I might skim over some of the really important details before I go onto a podcast. So for me, it's been a real time saver. It's been a real lifesaver because I've learned so much on it. And I really, really highly recommend that you go to www.shortform.com.
We've all become very distorted.
Yeah, and I find it so fascinating, particularly when I watch your channel. We can all see what trauma leads to prostitution, or what trauma leads to sex work. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It's no one that sits there and just comes out. So when we can disassociate and we just watch somebody getting that kind of treatment online and not for a second think, I wonder why she chose that career, I wonder how she got here. it is creating a psychopathy in men where they're just not processing feelings or not having that empathy. Same in women that watch it. I find it super bizarre, women that can just sit and watch pornography without even once reflecting, I'm a woman, I know that I would feel quite violated if this was happening to me and it was being filmed. How did this woman get here? Even women can turn that off and just enjoy. And I just think, I don't know if that's a healthy world to create where we can turn off empathy and replace it with desire and pleasure.
Well, I think if the woman experienced sexual abuse as a child, then maybe opens up her mind to that.
Yes, I would hope so. But what also it can do is desensitize that. It can almost make it feel like this is what my experience is somewhat normal. If I become hypersexual and I see people being sexualized, there's almost comfort in the community. So it can make them really triggered, but it also can make them very desensitized.
Is female attractiveness and sexuality the ultimate commodity in our society?
And sadly, and women have realized that very quickly. What's happened is that women are starting to realize that in order to get a man to invest in you, to marry you, to have that kind of home, gone are the days where he's looking for somebody that will just treat you well and be loyal to you. They are willing to sacrifice that in order to be with a woman who looks great and knows how to perform sexually. So what's happened is the measuring stick which men use to invest in a woman is how much she pleases him sexually. So the good women, or the women that are not so sexually averse or not so attractive, are just thinking, I don't stand a chance, really, because even unattractive men can replace women with pornography, but unattractive women don't have a way of replacing men. So they suffer, and all they might turn to is surgeries and fillers and all that sort of stuff. So being an unattractive woman is a really difficult time to be alive for them. I think a lot of people talk about how hard it is for men that can't get women, but no one mentions how difficult it is for women who can't get men. They do exist. There's this kind of rumor online that every woman can have sex if she wants it. It's not that easy. If you're an unattractive woman, men would rather turn to porn than be with you. So she has it way harder than an unattractive man, because if he really wants to pleasure himself, he can do that himself. So, yeah. So
I've heard you say one of the most interesting things I've heard, I think, ever on this topic, is that particularly attractive women are almost a different species than your average woman.
They go through life with a completely different experience, and it's not all negative. I'm not saying it in a negative way. A lot of it, there's a lot of perks to it, but the main kind of ramification of being beautiful is you're a commodity, or you're a threat. One or the other. You polarize people. People are never neutral to a beautiful woman. You can never just see a beautiful woman and she just walks past you and you're neutral. You can do that with average women, neutral. And then she has to earn your either respect or disrespect. She has to do something to cause that reaction in you. As a beautiful woman, you can do absolutely nothing, and you can incite intense hatred in either men and women, mainly women, but even men. They might see a really beautiful woman and intensely start to criticize her, so that they almost kind of skip the rejection part. Unconsciously, they're rejecting her before she can reject them. So they might say things like, oh, she wears so much makeup, this is or oh, I bet that she's had so much. It's their way of unconsciously kind of diminishing her before she has the chance to do that to them. Or they'll be hyper positive about her. So there might be men who really put her on a pedestal, there might be women who want to be just like her, and either or is just not a fair place to be in. So the beautiful women either over-identify with being beautiful, make that their entire personality and go down that career, or they get really, if they're trying not to make that their career, not make that identity, they suffer in the form of vacuous relationships and a lot of negativity from same sex.
Yeah, that's what I see, particularly like in the comments on my channel. If I post a video of a particularly attractive female, or even a man who's attractive, you know, not necessarily physically, but maybe his personality or his charisma, whatever, the comments will be crueler than anything you'll ever see.
Isn't that crazy? Like, the more...
Oh, you're going to hit the wall. Let's see what she looks like in 10 years. You know it's going to suck for her. And you know, just all these terrible comments.
Yeah, and
which happens to everybody.
Yeah, but I would imagine, and I can only go by my own experience, but I would imagine if I was severely overweight or considerably older or whatever and saying the exact same thing, I might still attract hate, because I know what I talk about is quite controversial. But I doubt the hate would be directed to my appearance. Whereas the way I stand at the moment on social media, I'm not trying to be negative. There's lots of beautiful comments and lots of very nice things that are said to me, but I went into social media with zero kind of expectation that any appearance talk would be it, because that's not what I came here for, but it still becomes a focus. So I kind of just, I'm very numb to it. It's something I've experienced my whole life, and I think I experienced so much negativity with appearance only because I never pursued a career that monetizes appearance. I was always a teacher, I was always something academic, I was always in that realm, and in that realm people can't accept the two worlds colliding. So I always got a lot of negativity from it, which is fine, it's okay. And they're right, one day you do hit the wall and it will go, and then you won't have to worry about it so much.
It's hard for attractive women also to make friends.
Yes, very much so.
There's so many of them that I've met don't, if they do have friends, they're not competitive.
Yes. That's the key.
A very unattractive female would be friends with a particularly attractive one.
Yeah, it has to be a woman that genuinely is happy in her own circumstance, and there is zero competitiveness. But if there's even one thing that she sees in your life that she wants, and that could just be male attention, it could be the appreciation you get from other people, it could be anything. Unfortunately, the relationship starts to deteriorate from the inside out, and it's very difficult, because this is the thing where guys always say, oh, men and women can't be friends. But from my personal experience, if you're an attractive woman, if you don't have any male friends, you're going to suffer in the form of very competitive female friends. So you're going to be very lonely. You're going to have to find friends somewhere. So it is very difficult. Have you noticed that with women as well, that they tend to be very competitive? But this is why I find the whole movement of being a feminist and whole like girl power and girls girl and I'm a girl's girl, it's so fake. It's so fake. Like the reality is, why is there girl code, girl this, when you guys are the first to throw each other under the bus if you're both after the same guy, or if you see someone who's more attractive? It's fake. Girls only show girl code or are only like supporting other girls if they don't see them as a threat. The moment that girl is a threat in any way, shape or form, then girl code goes out the window. There's never girls supporting girls. The gloves are off. So that's why I've never bought into this whole like feminism nonsense.
Yeah, men don't really do that.
No, they don't do this boy
So if you see a guy at the gym who's really changed his body, looks really great, you'll be like, dude, you look fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And you just congratulate him on what he's accomplished.
And if there is a jealousy, it turns into a healthy competition, or the jealousy is more competitive. It's like if they're playing basketball, it's like a form of motivation.
Yeah, it's inspiration.
Yeah, but it's an evolved trait. It's definitely an evolved trait, because essentially we had to rely on men for survival. We couldn't hunt and gather ourselves. And the more women there would be in his world, the more unlikely we are to survive and get food and resources for our children. So we'd naturally see other women as threats. And the quickest way to kind of reduce that threat is to either undermine her beauty or undermine her chastity and suggest she's highly promiscuous. So those are usually the two routes women go for when they're trying to attack a woman.
A lot of envy out there.
Yeah, there's a lot, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are all romantic relationships transactional?
I think, here's the thing,
Even
I think
marriage?
Unconsciously they have, I wouldn't say they're transactional, but I don't believe in unconditional love. I don't think love should be unconditional. Outside of your children and your parents, it's not going to be unconditional. I think if somebody treats you badly, you're no longer attracted to each other, somebody provides no benefit to you and you've got no connection, you're not going to be unconditionally in love with them. So I think there are always conditions, but some people's conditions are far more transactional than others.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, so I would say, like, for example, my conditions might be that you have to be loyal to me, you have to be faithful, and we have to trust each other, etc. But another person's condition might be that you have to provide for me, you have to provide for my parents, and you have to do this, and you have to do. So just everybody has conditions. Some of those conditions are far more transactional than others, and how you know how transactional it is how attractive the person is. If they are genuinely attracted to you, it gets less and less transactional. As the attraction decreases, the transaction increases.
Who benefits more in marriage, a man or a woman?
I think there's no benefit for a man, unfortunately, in the Western way of marriage. I think it's so sickening that, we have this agreement that women, when they divorce a man, they can just leave with a lot of his money or expect alimony for the rest of their life. And one of the things I always ask women is, are you going to have sex with him after you divorce for the rest of your life? And she's like, why would I do that? I was like, then why do you expect payment for the rest of your life? It's so strange that they want the perks and the lifestyle of the one that they attained from jumping on the back of their husband after the divorce, yet they wouldn't give anything after the divorce. They don't even give a lot of that during the marriage, let alone after. So I feel like it's it's almost a culture of creating sadistic women by pushing that kind of, you get half after the divorce. And they seem to say, well, you know, a lot of the excuses, oh, but I wasted so many years being dedicated to him, but you both wasted it. That's a risk you take. He also wasted many years being investing in you, and he could have been investing in lots of other people. So I just think that that's why I would be, as a man living in the West, unless it's for religious reasons, I wouldn't recommend you getting married. If you're religious, absolutely. But if you're non-religious and your wife or your girlfriend is putting pressure on you, ask her why. Ask her why, because a lot of them see it as a life insurance for after they get divorced, they still have a payment plan. But this is the extremities. This is not the average woman. I would say this is more the extremities, but unfortunately that is becoming the culture.
So I'm sure in your practice you see a lot of women that are, you know, getting into things that look like a sugar baby type
yes, absolutely.
relationship. Are there women who marry men knowing full well that they're going to divorce them and take half their money?
That's why they're marrying them. Yeah, that's entirely why they're marrying them. And how you know, these are the signs that she's marrying you for money. Usually she's she's not got her own money. She's got nothing to lose from the marriage. So she will have no money of her own, or no career of her own, or she would have been married to a really rich man before and set up a business from that. But there's been a pattern of either no money,